Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tune Project, or welcome if it's your first time. Today I'll be demonstrating how to put tapes on your fingerboard. Finger tapes can be great for if you are first starting out on the violin and need a little bit of extra help with intonation and finger placement. They're a really great place to start, and I'll always recommend tapes over any sort of fingerboard sticker or anything like that that has all of the finger markers on one sticker, just because it doesn't necessarily always fit every single violin, even though a lot of them claim to be one size fits all. I find that tapes are great because they are customizable and you get to move them and make little adjustments based on what you need. You can take tapes away, add more, and everything like that, which is really nice. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you are not already subscribed to the Tune Project, I invite you to hit that red subscribe button below. I post videos just like this one 2 times every week, and if you'd like to be notified when I post a video, you can hit the notifications bell. Before we get started, you'll need a few supplies. You'll need a violin, scissors, a pencil, electrical tape, and a tuner or tuning app. And I always recommend electrical tape to my students because you can find it in most hardware stores and it comes in many different colors. It's easy to peel off of the fingerboard when you're done with it. It usually doesn't leave that adhesive residue, so it's generally pretty easy to work with. So if you have some of that handy, that's what we're going to use today. Now, before we get into actually applying the tapes onto the fingerboard, we want to make sure that our strings are in tune. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and you're welcome to do the same if you need to. So today we'll be putting 3 tapes on the fingerboard, one for our first finger, one for our second finger, and one for our third finger, because chances are if you're here learning how to put tapes on your fingerboard, you probably haven't gotten into the use of the fourth finger yet. So the first 3 fingers are the most common when starting out and can give you a really great guide for finger placement in general, for the different scales and finger patterns that you might commonly come across. So our first tape is going to be for our first finger, and we're going to use our A string as a guide as we go through with these tapes. So our first finger, the note that we're going to be listening for is B on the A string. So what we'll start by doing is peeling off a generous size piece of tape here, long enough to fit across the fingerboard and wrap around on both sides. And once you have found the length that you want to go with, you can go ahead and cut that piece of tape off. All right, so we have our piece of tape here, but it's a little bit too wide to be able to use for just one finger. So for that reason, we're gonna be cutting this thicker piece of tape into thinner strips that are appropriately sized for each of our fingers. So we'll start by cutting off just a very thin strip of this piece of tape that we have. And try to get it as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just going to be there as a marker for your finger. So just do the best that you can do with this. And then once you have your thinner strip of tape and your thicker strip of tape, you can go ahead and set the thicker piece aside. And for our thinner piece of tape, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this piece of tape, we're gonna thread it underneath the strings starting around the bridge and the base of the fingerboard, and we're gonna go all the way up to where our first finger would play on the A string. So remember, we're using our A string as a guide here. So we're gonna go underneath the strings, and we're gonna slide it all the way up into relatively where you think is about where your first finger would play. So this is just an estimation. It doesn't have to be exact. We'll find the exact placement here in a little bit, but we wanna make sure first that it is relatively straight across all 4 strings and across the fingerboard. And you'll wanna leave either side of this piece of tape off of the neck. We're not ready to secure it just yet because we haven't found the exact spot. So now that you have your tape in relatively the right position for our note that we're shooting for, which again is B, make sure that you're seated and have your violin facing you on your lap. because what we're gonna do next is we wanna make sure that our right hand is free if your right hand is dominant, and we're securely holding our violin on our lap with our left hand. So now you can go ahead and grab your pencil with your right hand and make sure that you have your tuner handy at this point as well. So now you're gonna take the end of the pencil, the eraser side, and we're just gonna place it on the string where we've placed our tape, and we're gonna pluck the string. Remember, this is the A string, and we're gonna keep an eye on the tuner and look for the pitch B. And we wanna make sure that it's in tune with B on the tuner. So where I have placed my tape, it's registering as a B flat, which means I have to move my tape down or up in pitch on the fingerboard. So we're gonna do that, and this is why we keep both sides of the tape still available so that we can easily lift and move the tape as necessary. So we're gonna do that. We're just gonna shift it down a little bit, and then we would try again once we've moved our tape into the position that we think it should be. And we check with our tuner, again, using the eraser side of the pencil, just placing it right on the tape where your finger would go on the string, and then we pluck. And we're good to go. We have a B. So now that it's in the correct position, once you have found that spot, you'll go ahead and secure either side of the tapes on the neck of the violin so that it comes all the way around like so. If your piece of tape isn't long enough to where they'll overlap, that's perfectly okay. As long as they are long enough to go around either side, you'll be in good shape. You just want to make sure that it's secure enough. Okay, so moving on to our second piece of tape, we're going to take this thicker piece of tape that we started with, we're going to cut another thin strip for our second finger, and we're going to go through the same process that we did for the first finger. And then we set our thicker piece aside. This piece isn't quite as pretty, but remember, it's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it gives you the guide for each of your fingers. You'll be in good shape. So we're gonna go through the same process here. We're gonna take our thinner piece of tape. We are going to come underneath the strings and all the way up to where our second finger would be, which is what we call a whole step above our first finger. And for this second tape, we're looking for the note C sharp. So that's what we'll be checking with our tuner. Again, using the eraser side of the pencil to just hold down the string so that we can pluck and make sure that it is in the right spot. And once you have found the right placement for your C sharp, the second tape, you can go ahead and fold down either side of the tape, just like we did for the first one. And then for our final piece of tape, we repeat the same process. We cut off a thinner strip from the thicker strip of tape, and we thread it underneath the strings all the way up into our third finger position, which in this case, the note that we're looking for is D. All right, so again, I've gone ahead and approximated where I think that note will be. This time it'll be a half step above our second finger, or our C sharp, using A as a guide. So we're gonna do the pencil test, and we're gonna make sure that it's in the right spot. And then again, once you have found that correct placement for the third tape, you can go ahead and fold down either side of that tape. And then voila, you have all three tapes on your fingerboard for your first, second, and third finger. And again, as I said earlier, if you are first starting out on the violin, these three finger tapes will be really helpful to you because this is a very common finger pattern that we have for each of these fingers on all of the strings. So if you were to play an A major scale, for example, starting on open A, we would have A, B on our first tape, C sharp on our second tape, D on our third tape, and then we would go up to E, and then we would have F sharp as our first finger, G sharp as our second finger, and A as our third finger, both same positions on both of those strings. So hopefully that'll be a good guide for you as you're just starting out and as your ear is getting more used to listening for pitch placement and getting used to intonation and all of those sort of things. So I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, again, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps my videos out. Feel free to check out other videos that I have here on the Tune Project. I teach fiddle tutorials as well as technique videos and other beginner videos such as this one. So I hope you'll stay tuned for more to come, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Happy practicing. If you'd like to further your support of the Tune Project, be sure to head over to patreon.com/thetuneproject for information on that. And if you're planning on buying any music or doing any shopping on Amazon, be sure to head over to the Tune Project website, which I linked in the description box of all of my videos. Click my Amazon banner, and whatever you purchase, a small percentage of that will go toward the Tune Project. This just keeps the Tune Project going and allows me to continue to create free content for you all.